Welcome back to the Funding Blueprint, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of startups, innovation, and social impact. I'm your host, Avraham, and today's episode promises to be a captivating journey into the realm of nonprofit leadership and fintech empowerment. Our guest today is Ashley, a seasoned professional with a decade of experience dedicated to driving positive change in the nonprofit sector. With a rich background in events, marketing, and development, Ashley has been instrumental in shaping the brands, engagement strategies, and funding initiatives of various nonprofit organizations. For the past 4 years, Ashley has been an integral part of the RevTech Labs Foundation, where she has worked closely with the founding team to develop and execute the organization's visions and goals. In particular, Ashley's passion for addressing the underrepresentation of women in the fintech and finance sector has led her to collaborate with the foundation's founder and president, Sarah Roselli, in the creation of Southeast Women in Fintech. Today we'll delve deep into Ashley's journey, her insights into nonprofit leadership, and the impactful work being done at RevTech Labs Foundation and Southeast Women in Fintech. So without further ado, let's welcome Ashley to the show.
Thank you so much.
Of course, pleasure's all ours. So I want to kind of dive right in and kind of ask you, as you've seen this Southeast startup ecosystem is kind of witnessing a surge of female founders building innovative companies. And accelerators play a very crucial role in supporting these different types of ventures by offering resources, mentorship, and access to capital. So with your experience working with female founders in the Southeast, I'd like to kind of delve deeper into the specific benefits of accelerator programs for these entrepreneurs. So are there any unique ways that these programs cater to the specific needs of women entrepreneurs beyond the typical accelerator benefits?
Yeah. So I think we all know at this point some of the dismal statistics on female-founded companies. Speaking specifically of our own program, we focus on companies that have gone through a successful seed or pre-seed round even, and will be getting ready for another raise in the next few months. And the truth is that's the point where a lot of female founders, they get stuck because they can't gain access to the same resources, networks, or funding to take them to that next level. The same things that come a little bit easier for white male founders. Our program, in particular, we take a customized approach. So versus a curriculum-based model, we identify each company's unique needs, and from there we'll create a customized mentor base and advisory board to address that company's needs and hopefully put them in a better position post-program. But our program is also about leveraging our social capital and actual capital that we've spent years building and developing and fundraising for, with the sole intention of giving each of our founders access to these resources that are necessary for their scale and growth. And these are things that female founders, again, they just don't come as easily by them if they were just left to their own devices. And speaking more generally, I think that this is the benefit of any accelerator, regardless of the program model that they operate off of. All of these programs are about creating a real community of support that can open doors that are, quite frankly, just hard to open when you're on an island of your own.
For sure. No, that's a great answer. So I'm happy to see that RevTech actually takes more of a tailored approach, kind of accommodating to the founders' market and sector and product that they're trying to develop. So that's interesting. Is there an alum component to it as well, of where individuals that have graduated, female founders that have graduated, kind of come back and kind of mentor the next set of founders as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We say that you might graduate out of our program, but you never graduate out of the RevTech Labs family. We engage and keep in touch with all of our alumni. Post-program, we continue to offer them support and resources, get them plugged into our events, continue helping build their awareness and their exposure. And we always have, a lot of those founders that have graduated out come back and raise their hand to mentor our newest cohort, or host virtual lunch and learns on areas that they are an expert in, that some of our founders really need a little bit more expertise and support in.
As you know, the startup scene is kind of brimming, and there's a lot of promising startups that are led by women. So, female founders, they often face a lot of unique challenges on their entrepreneurial journeys. So, with your experience working closely with women entrepreneurs, can you kind of shed some light on some of the primary hurdles they encounter when developing their startups?
Yeah. I think I touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but maybe to get a more specific, the key challenge, quite honestly, has been and continues to be getting financed. I think we all know the shocking statistic that PitchBook put out last year, which is that female-founded startups accounted for 2% of venture capital, and that was for the U.S. and Europe. I mean, that's a crazy statistic, right? I would say another really big challenge or hurdle is having the critical networks and support systems to help you grow and scale your business. Oftentimes white male founders have a surplus of connections and mentors and champions to help them build and refine their business and make those critical and necessary introductions that they need. And this is, I would say, going back, speaking specifically for us, this is especially true when we're looking at our industry focus, which is fintech and insurtech. This is still a very male-dominated industry. Finance and insurance have made really great strides in that gender diversity, but it's still male-dominated space. And finding champions and mentors for women among the boys club, it's a challenge. And oftentimes there is, unfortunately, some gender bias and some assumptions that are coming into play about women and their ability to lead and grow a startup. And quite honestly, some connections are also just being made in spaces that women don't frequent or don't really have an opportunity to participate in, whether that's the golf course or the poker table, or like to give a super relevant and personal example, there have been events in the past for like tech leaders or program leaders that I would have loved to attend, but they have started at 7 o'clock in the morning and are done by 9. And for me, at that time, I'm getting my kids on the bus and getting them out the door and making sure they're awake for school. So I don't ever get to participate in some of those events because of that difference in my lifestyle.
Right, it is rather unfortunate, but and it's sad to kind of see that. But do you think that, from your perspective, do you think that we're kind of increasing that stat? I think over the next couple of years, will there be some type of shift or change in that stat, or do you think that it will kind of be stable and stay the same?
I think there'll be a shift and a change. I like to be hopeful and optimistic about that. I think there's a lot of awareness that's happening. Again, with that PitchBook stat coming out last year, I think we all kind of knew it, but then when you see the data like that in black and white, it's shocking. And I think everyone, male, female, regardless of gender identity, color, ethnicity, came together and was like, well, God, what do we do about that? And so I think the more we expose things like that in black and white and start having some of these uncomfortable conversations sometimes and saying, I'm being left out, I'm being left behind. There's such a disproportionate amount of resources going in one direction and not in all directions. I think the more we just be open and honest and expose ourselves to that, I think the more we can kind of chip away at it. So I'm hopeful and optimistic. We'll see a shift. We just got to keep talking about it.
For sure. Sound advice. Now, I want to jump into asking you. The Southeast region is kind of fostering and promoting a vibrant environment for female entrepreneurs by the looks of it. So, what nuggets of wisdom would you impart to aspiring female founders in the Southeast region and who are brimming with ideas and are ready to launch their ventures? Are there any types of specific resources or strategies that you'd recommend that they leverage or utilize in order to navigate around their journey and overcome potential challenges?
Yes, there's so much, so I'll try to keep my answer to this one succinct. First, speaking specifically about the Southeast, I want to say, first and foremost, you don't have to be in New York or Silicon Valley to make it happen. There are so many incredible ecosystems popping up, especially here in the Southeast, from Charlotte to Nashville to Atlanta to Tampa to Miami. There's so many great communities of support here. You don't have to go to New York or San Francisco to make these things come up and off the ground. Some other, advice or words of wisdom, I guess, would be don't go it alone. Touching on some of the other points I made earlier, having a strong network of support in place who can help you identify your blind spots and complement your weaknesses, champion you in rooms you're not present in, and are willing to expel some of their social capital to open doors. I think that's huge. And I think, if I'm being frank, that's the Southeast strength. We're very collaborative community. That Southern hospitality, that applies to how we do business and how we support our startups. I would say be nimble. Listen to and understand the market you're entering and the feedback you're receiving from customers to funders. I see a lot of founders and female founders really dig in their heels and refuse to hear the needs of the market, because they really want to stay true to their original intent. But the world can change in a minute, hello COVID, and how you respond and react to those big shifts. Those will make and break. Those are make and break you moments. I would also say, it's important, especially from a female perspective. I think this tends to be our Achilles heel here, is we need to reframe our perspective of criticism and failure. It's part of the game, unfortunately, and it's really hard when you have to hear that your baby's ugly or you need to make some changes. But you're gonna get lots of no's. You're gonna get a lot of critical feedback. There's gonna be a lot of doubt when you're building something and you're trying to make a change in an industry with your solution and your technology. And some of your really big, great ideas, they're gonna fail. It's just, again, the nature of the beast. But you can't carry it all with you, because it's just gonna slow you down, and you can't take it too personally. And I would just kind of say, again, there's so much I would love to say in this section to answer this question, but again, I think the last thing would be to take care of yourself. The journey of building a startup is not an easy one, and if you burn out, so does your company. So I think it's important, especially for women who are really eager to prove themselves and don't really want to seem too self-indulgent, but you have to rest and you have to have self-care. That's not something you can put on the back burner while you build, because quite honestly, your company's success relies on your wellness and well-being.
Very true, very true. And I've seen so many different types of people who have amazing ideas, but they're just unfortunately pushing themselves too hard. They're taking everything in a way of where, like, look, I failed. And I always give people advice. I say, like, a pivot is not so much of a failure. I wouldn't look at it as a failure. I like to say that it's not really a failure. Think of it as an area that hasn't been explored, but now is explored thanks to your efforts and the trajectory that you took at that time, kind of revealing that. So I think it's important to look at it from that perspective, but also from a hobbies perspective. You have to find things to kind of entertain yourself, to keep yourself occupied from a relaxing standpoint as well. Because we're not machines, we're humans. We're working constantly, trying to work towards our goals, trying to complete our objectives in a timely fashion. But that ultimately is like we don't run forever. We need sleep. We need to recharge. We need to find things that really make us comfortable and to relax. So I think that is important to kind of find those things, find those hobbies. Me being in Miami, I'm not in Miami in the moment, but me being in Miami, I use the beach. The beach is a great way for me to kind of detox and to relax and to kind of focus on my health and wellness. So, founders should kind of seek a way of what their hobby or health and wellness kind of resolution would look like. So I think it's important to think of it from that perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree.
I want to kind of touch upon another point that you've actually mentioned about work-life balance in your personal life as well. The entrepreneurial journey, as you know, is exhilarating, but it's also quite demanding, as we mentioned earlier, often blurring the lines between work and personal life. So female founders in particular, they can face a lot of additional pressures like we talked about with yourself, like juggling family, career responsibilities. Can you elaborate on the unique challenges female founders face in maintaining work-life balance? Like, are there specific ways that Southeast-based accelerators or other organizations can help women entrepreneurs prioritize well-being and avoid burnout?
Yeah, yeah. Again, we already touched on it, right? Founder burnout is real. It takes a figurative and literal blood, sweat, and tears to build that, whether you're male, female, non-binary, right? And for women, the unique challenge for us, is that unfortunately the bulk of child rearing and caretaking around the home or taking care of aging parents, all of that still predominantly falls on women, regardless of what their career demands are. And the gender imbalance at home, it's still very pervasive, even among some of the more progressive households and partnerships. And also the other, unique thing with female founders with children is mom guilt. Even if women were to enlist the help of partners or other family members or paid caretakers, to help them lighten their load, the amount of guilt we still feel about missing moments, whether they're big or they're small, or coming home and seeing disappointed faces on our kids, that weighs on us so heavily. And it's gut-wrenching, and I hear mom guilt, probably daily. Never have I ever heard dad guilt. It's just not how we're wired in our DNA as a culture, as a society. So that's a continuing challenge unique for female founders too. And it's really great for organizations like us and other organizations similar to us who build these founder communities and organizations that are focused on supporting founders, bringing them together in a cohort for 12 weeks, taking a real concerted effort to make sure that there's diversity in our cohort. So, we have women and other, mom founders out there connecting and supporting, and that are organically, these conversations are just kind of coming up as they work together more, and they're kind of learning to just support themselves and just share open and honest dialogue in that kind of a setting. We're partnered with GAN, the Global Accelerator Network, now known as MARO, and because we're a partner of theirs, they have incredible mental health resources for all founders, and that's huge to have services like that. And there's a lot of female-specific organizations, again, here in the Southeast, thinking specifically about Brain Trust, who I just had a really great call and connection with last week, that are focused on female entrepreneurs. And again, it's just creating the community first to help support entrepreneurs, and then these conversations about our unique challenges that are outside our personal, our home, our family life, how they're coming into play in our work and career life. Those conversations are coming up organically, and we're supporting each other as they come up. And so it's just really building that community I've seen be super effective.
It's amazing. That's sound advice. Are there any specific trends, or can you share a trend that you observe in the type of companies women are building in your region?
Oh, I think they're kind of all over the place. We have really great fintechs and insurtechs, health tech. Femtech is really big, but I think women here are really good at when they're in their industry, regardless of whether that's finance, insurance, healthcare, media, whatever it is, of being very intuitive and listening and identifying where there's something missing. And the more we're just getting more confident and I can be the one to solve that. I can be the one to take the initiative to create that thing that this industry so sorely needs. I don't have to sit around and wait anymore for someone else to do it. So I would say, I don't know that I'm seeing a trend in any one particular solution or industry, just that overall more and more women in their industry, regardless of what that is, are seeing what the need is and aren't sitting around waiting anymore. They're doing it. I would love to highlight, one of our portfolio companies, Iris InsurTech. They're based out of Tampa, founded by a great team, Margot and Lindsay. They, they were insurance, in the insurance industry as agents and brokers, and they saw a real need and a real pain point, and they built this management system specifically for agents, brokers, and MGAs to streamline and simplify their operations and their compliance all in one. And in the last 12 months, they were able to raise $4 million. They've doubled their valuation and ARR in just 6 months. And now they're currently wrapping up an additional $10 million in funding. And it's incredible because they were in the industry, so they know the unique needs and pain points. They were intuitive enough to really listen, pay attention, and then they didn't sit around and wait. They went and they built the thing they themselves needed. And with that kind of authenticity and understanding, they've seen such significant traction and growth.
So they acted upon it really quickly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing. Right. And that's good to hear, is because I don't see a point in any delay. I mean, in reality, if you really think that, and you come up with your idea, you've conducted your market research, which plays a vital role, and seeing if there is a need for this in the market by going out there, getting out of the building and starting to test and seeing if people are actually willing to partake in a product or a service of that nature. And most importantly, if it really solves a pain in the marketplace, and having the expertise is, from a back-end perspective, is really, really important. So it seems like Iris is doing some pretty impactful work in that respect.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. As the daughter of an insurance agent and agency owner who used to have to spend her summers in his office, I look at their solution and I'm like, God, this solves all my childhood PTSD. But again, it's not just Iris. There's so many women here that are doing the same thing. They see a need and they're not waiting.
Right. That was awesome. That was great. And as we conclude today's episode, I really want to thank you and extend my sincere gratitude to you, Ashley, for sharing your invaluable insights and expertise on empowering female founders in the startup ecosystem. This is actually our first episode of where we kind of really hone in more on female founders. So definitely some great takes from a first impression aspect. But we hope you found this episode enlightening and inspiring, gaining valuable perspectives on the challenges and opportunities faced by female entrepreneurs in the Southeast region. Whether you're a seasoned founder, aspiring entrepreneur, or support of diversity and inclusion in the startup world, we hope today's discussion has provided some valuable insights and actionable advice. For our listeners interested in learning more about Ashley and RevTech Labs, we'll have their links and their website and social media in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.